Okay, and welcome to episode 1 of the No One Asked for Your Opinion podcast. Um, so this whole podcast thing is totally unscripted, totally just I have an outline of what I am to cover, and that's how things are going to go. Um, so if anybody's like familiar with the channel so far, it's been a series of video essays, and video essays is something that I really enjoy doing because it kind of forces me to learn how to edit film, which is part of what I am learning in school, but also it also kind of helps me understand how the story is told in visual form. But unfortunately, I've been having problems with the YouTube copyright ID system, and every single video essay that I've created thus far has been basically destroyed by Disney. And I have two videos currently in a copyright dispute. And since those videos are in a copyright dispute, no one can see them. So I'm basically working on content that I cannot share because no one can see them. They're blocked everywhere. Disney is basically thinking that I'm uploading The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi as full, even though my voice is over that content. And according to law, they're covered under fair use. So I would assume that, Disney would just be like, hey, it's fair use. Yeah, you've transformed the work to change the meaning and make it your purpose. But they haven't really acted on it, but it's a 30-day process and they're just sitting in limbo for 30 days. So I need to put content on the channel because I have subscribers. So I decided to go back to the original purpose of No One Asked for Your Opinion, which was a more media review and podcast. So essentially what was the idea was that there was a website, or there is a website at NAFYO.com, which reviewed television shows on a weekly basis. Unfortunately, though, life got in the way, and I could not keep up with that schedule of watching shows and reviewing them. So the next option was to do podcasting. Now, I was going to do a podcast with a friend, but again, life got in the way, and so our schedules couldn't meet up. He ended up moving, and so it just kind of fell to the back burner. And then life got more in the way. I decided to go to graduate school, and my time has now been limited. But I really want to do this because this has always been a goal of mine. So I finally have the equipment, I finally have the time, and so this is episode 1 of the No One Asked for Your Opinion podcast. Yay! If I had a sound effect machine, I'd probably be playing effects right now. So the idea of the podcast is to go on a free form based type of way of just getting my opinion out. And even though no one asked for it, that's the whole purpose. It's just getting my opinion out. Now, my opinion is not right. It's not, how would I say it? It's open to, there's probably holes in the logic, and someone will find those holes and punch bigger holes in them. And I'm totally fine with that. That's the whole beauty of debate and arguments and all that fun stuff. You just get to share opinions, and eventually something new will come out of it, and everybody learns something from it. Hopefully maybe every week or every 2 weeks, I will do a podcast talking about one main topic, and then just presenting my stance on it and seeing if, do you agree or not agree, and let's go from there. What is the main topic for this week? So the main topic that I want to talk about is something that was kind of like a big debate about a week and a half ago, which is Rey a Mary Sue? So I'm of the camp of no, she's not. Now, of course, people will disagree with this, and that's totally fine. But you have to understand the definition of a Mary Sue, and she doesn't meet that definition. Now, Mary Sue is a term that was coined back in the 1970s during the fanzine, the fan magazine era of of science fiction, where a girl wrote a Star Trek fan fiction featuring her and Spock, and it was not well received. Basically, this girl, it was a self-insert, and that's what Mary Sue is, a self-insert. She was, I believe, a bridge officer or something. She falls in love with Spock. Spock falls in love with her. She's so perfect. Everybody loves her. And it just was not well received. And a person wrote into the magazine, I guess in the following issue, that the character was a Mary Sue and it was horrible. So that's where the term Mary Sue came from. And for as long as I remember, the term Mary Sue has always been referred to as a self-insert. Like, someone wrote a story, they are in love with this character in some way. And back in the 70s and 80s, women did think Spock was a sex symbol, and they wrote stories about themselves with Spock. And so that was always the perception, that if someone wrote a fan fiction, they would be and they insert themselves in that fan fiction, they would be called a Mary Sue. But for some reason, like within the last I would say like 5, maybe the last 8 years, the term Mary Sue has been taken and turned into a more of a negative by I don't want to say by male fans, but just by a certain louder minority of fandom that, to meet their narrative, that Mary Sues are just overpowered females. Now, use that term to basically knock down any female that they feel is a threat to a male protagonist or male hero. So Mary Sue has went from female fans calling other female fans who write self-inserts Mary Sues, to now angry male fans calling any overpowered female in a science fiction or comic or any type of franchise like that an overpowered female. Now, is Rey a Mary Sue? In any of those definitions, no, she's not, because you have to understand her story arc. She's the protagonist, but that doesn't mean that she's the hero. Now, when people like to throw the new definition of Mary Sue out there, they like to think of, well, any female that assumes the role of a hero is a Mary Sue. And that's not true in the slightest. Rey has faults. Rey is a flawed character. She's not perfect. And we can see those flaws in The Force Awakens. She is spontaneous. She has an anger issue. She doesn't trust people. And she is very stubborn. So that's 4 character traits about her that are bad and flawed. And it's because of those character traits that land her in the situation that she's in. She is compassionate, though. So her compassion is also a reason why she's in the situation that she's in. But because of her flaws, she can't be a Mary Sue, because a Mary Sue is flawless. So everything that Rey does, if she was a Mary Sue, everybody would be like, oh my God, Rey, you're the chosen one. I love you. But no, she is just there. She's just this thing. This person. She's the audience. She is a personification of the audience in the movies. So every experience that we get from Rey in The Force Awakens is supposed to be our introduction to this lore. It's like Rey has grown up on these stories of the legendary Luke Skywalker, of the Force, of Darth Vader, all this. And she's basically us. And so as this avatar for the audience, we are reintroduced into this world. So her reactions to certain things and stuff like that is supposed to be our reactions to meeting Han Solo again, to meeting Leia again, to meeting Chewbacca, to meeting all these characters. And throughout The Force Awakens, Rey is surviving. She's a survivalist. So there's really nothing in that movie at all that would imply that she's a Mary Sue, because she gets owned in the first meeting with Kylo Ren. She what happened? She almost gets owned on the Millennium Falcon with the Raptors or whatever those monsters are. She nearly got owned with, on Jakku against the First Order stormtroopers until they found the Millennium Falcon. The only moment of shining glory that she gets is on Starkiller Base when the planet is about to explode because Poe did the not money shot, but Poe destroyed the reactor or whatever, and she got a lucky shot there. If more than anything, Rey's a lucky character. She just gets lucky because she's a survivalist. But does that make her Mary Sue? No, it doesn't. Now, a lot of people like to say that, well, Rey's a Mary Sue because all of a sudden she can use a lightsaber. But people forget the fact that Finn, throughout 2/3 of the movie, was holding the lightsaber and was wrecking people left and right-ish with that lightsaber. He was able to get a hit on Kylo Ren with that lightsaber in the battle. Kylo Ren gets wrecked by Rey and Finn. Like, it's not just Rey that wrecks him. It's Finn also does. And people have to realize that Kylo Ren was injured by Chewie's bowcaster. So the guy was already bleeding to death fighting these two characters. Now, imagine if Kylo Ren was not bleeding to death and not emotionally wrecked because he just killed his own father. If he was as he was when we first met him in the first half of the movie, I don't think that Rey or Finn would have been that lucky. So the argument that she's this overpowered Mary Sue is just a bunch of bullshit, because there's nothing in the story in her arc, especially The Force Awakens, that people like to reference to that would even imply. If anything, the only reason why she even got lucky towards the end was because The Force awakened. That was it. The Force awakened in her. She was able to channel it, and using her survival instincts, she got a lucky hit and knocked him out. That was it. She channeled her anger, and her survival instincts was what helped her defeat Kylo Ren at that moment. So did she channel the light side or the dark side? I think she channeled more the dark side. Her fighting was very brutal and animalistic, much like Kylo Ren's fighting style. So yeah, anyway, that's another debate for another day. But Rey as a character in The Force Awakens, there's nothing in that movie at all that states that she is OP Mary Sue. Now, going into The Last Jedi, again, there's nothing in that movie that would even imply that she is a Mary Sue. Now, we have to realize that she gets awakened maybe 2 days later. She's on Ahch-To with Chewie, the Millennium Falcon, giving Luke the lightsaber. Now, if she was this OP Mary Sue, she would not be going to Ahch-To giving Luke the lightsaber because she already has a lightsaber. She just would have been, in a blaze of glory, just going towards the First Order and knocking people out left and right and decapitating them and stabbing them. And because if you ever see the way that she fights, she's very, very brutal. I've not seen people fight with lightsabers the way that the way that Rey and Kylo Ren fight. That they are very, very brutal in the way that they fight. Anyway, she is not at that level yet, and Rey never really gets to that level. Her fighting mirrors that of Kylo Ren. See, when Kylo Ren did the interrogation and forced himself into her mind, he clicked open that door. He opened that door. And when Rey, as a self-defense, forced herself into his mind, that was the convergence of their, I guess, mind and spirit. So she learned everything from him. And I believe that in the novelization of both The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, it's explained that she just picked and pulled what she could from him as a defense mechanism and used it against him. So all of her first teachings of the Force are dark side teachings of the Force. And I think that's a reason why she is so, I can't even speak, but she is so easy to fall to the dark side and why Luke is so afraid of her. So to say that, well, she's a Mary Sue because of the throne room or whatever, really, there's nothing Mary Sue about that, because she nearly gets wrecked her own self in the throne room. She thinks like a survivalist, and her quick thinking is kind of like what saves them. But there's nothing throughout The Last Jedi that would even in the slightest moment say that, yes, this girl is a Mary Sue. And whoever, the final blow, right, it's not by her. It's not by her hand. It's by Kylo Ren's hand. He's the one that slays Snoke. He's the one that, it takes out mostly half of the Praetorian guards in the throne room. He's the one that gets the final lightsaber battle at the end of the movie against Luke Skywalker. Rey is kind of pushed to the background, especially in the last 30 minutes. Her moment of glory is in the Millennium Falcon with Chewie as a meanwhile over there type of moment, because the focus is on Luke Skywalker and Kylo Ren / Ben Solo. If Rey was a Mary Sue, that moment would not have went to Ben Solo, Kylo Ren, Luke Skywalker. It would have went to her. She would have been on Crate fighting Kylo Ren. So, this argument that she's a Mary Sue is just total, absolute bullshit. It's a weak argument. And it's a weak argument by people who feel threatened by a female protagonist who is strong. That's it. So that's all I gotta say about that. So that's it for this podcast. We are 30 minutes in. I have to cut this down because I believe no one's gonna listen to me ramble for 30 minutes. But if you guys like this first episode, please subscribe, like, comment, let me know your thoughts below in the comments below. I have a Patreon. If you guys sign up for that and subscribe and support me on Patreon, I will be posting my video essays there, because they will be being moved to Vimeo. Vimeo isn't as dumb as YouTube when it comes to copyright, because they are a website focused for film creators, and my video essays are film creations, and they're going there. So if you guys are interested in the video essays, just subscribe to Patreon, and I will let you know firsthand there where the video essays are posted. In the meanwhile, this YouTube channel will be more of a podcast posting type of place. And yeah, so that's it for this episode. Rey's not a Mary Sue, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.